Are you a bad person when you actively destroy Sundies? Let's discuss. Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Faborn as usual, and today we're going to talk about a topic that has been discussed by different people before. Like the title might suggest, it's all about having good fights versus playing the objective. And like I mentioned before in the beginning in the intro, are you a bad person when you destroy a Sunderer? Before you guys all go crazy in the comments by telling, yeah, of course he killed a fight, he's a bad person, or no, he's just playing the objective, try to hear me out on certain things, and of course, when you comment, bring some arguments with you, because I really like to behave in the comments, have a good discussion, and be like real gentlemen. In the end, the main goal of this video is to get some constructive feedback to maybe even improve the game in the future as well. And together with all your opinions, all your voices, we might have a little say in what's going to happen in the future as well. Therefore, also towards the end of the video, I will try to propose a few quote-unquote fixes to the problems we have right now, and then we'll see what you guys think of it. Before we go to the main body of my arguments, I do want to describe the problem, because some of you might be new to the game, or some of you might not know what the real issues are in the game right now. Issues might not even be the correct word to use right now, because, well, it's more like pain points in the discussion players have for ages in this game. And it's mainly because, guys, this is not your general shooter, no, this is an MMO FPS. In games like Battlefield, Halo or Call of Duty, when you die you will respawn in a random location. But that's not the case in Planetside. In Planetside there are generally 5 ways to spawn. You can spawn at a friendly base, you can spawn at a Sunderer from your faction, you can spawn at a squadmate's beacon, you can spawn if a squadmate is driving in a Galaxy or the Sunderer, or what you could also do is you can join combat by pressing J. I should probably also remind you guys that you can also spawn from a router, a Legion spawn tube, or when a squad mate is flying a Valkyrie. But in my experience, those spawn points are available way less, and even often if they are available, they're not relevant at all, especially with those Elysium spawn tubes. Now you know the most used spawn options, it is also very important to know that the spawning at the base is mainly defensive and spawning from a Sunderer is mainly offensive. In Planetside there is this overarching goal to gain as much territory as possible, and therefore you need to attack or defend bases. And in this case, well, you could in theory spawn from your own base and walk up to the next base, but because the map is so big, so massive in Planetside 2, so that would take forever. So what the majority of players do in Planetside 2, or they pull their own vehicle from the base, or they just spawn at an already parked vehicle near an enemy base. These 2 ways are the 2 fastest ways to get into action as fast as possible. And I do know that Planetside is also a sandbox, so you can do whatever you want, but I do think most players just want to get into action as fast as possible, because that is where the fun is actually happening. But that is also where we run into the first problems, because, well, if you want to have fun, you want to have a fight. And if you want to have a fight, you want some good spawn locations, and well, the defending side always has a good spawn location because they can always spawn in their spawn rooms. The attacking side on the other hand though, has to create these spawn locations, and that can be done by, for example, driving up a Sunderer, flying up a Galaxy, or creating even a router. And it always is a lot of work. However though, the minute you park your Sunderer, you've created a stable spawn location, and from there on, you can have a good and sustained fight. Unlike though the defensive side spawn room, the Sunderer is not indestructible. To keep a sustained fight, you need to make sure your Sunderer stays alive. That is rather hard sometimes. Daybreak Games has taken some measures to also provide some extra defense for the Sunderers, and they made some Sunday garages even. But in practice, all you need to destroy a Sunderer is one sneaky light assault with some C4 and its rocket rifle. Once the Sunderer has been destroyed, there is no spawn location anymore. So the attacking side has to heavily rely on their medics and also maybe their squad beacons to keep the fight up. What happens more often though is that within 1 minute the fight just died down. The attacking side has no way to get into the base anymore, and the defensive side has no one to shoot anymore. So in theory you have won the fight, you have defended the base, but you also destroy the action. I've heard some people saying some really nasty things in the proxy chat to people that destroyed Sunderers, and some people are not happy at all when it happens. I do hope now you get the main problem or the main issue of the debate right now, so we can actually get a deeper understanding of the matter and discuss it as well. I will try to give a look at both point of views, but in the end this is also my opinion piece, so keep that in mind. And also I do have to tell you this, When I started with Planetside, I have been raised by infantry elitists, and they told me and they learned me by heart that killing a Sunderer is a violation of the law of war. So every time I kill a Sunderer, I feel guilty myself. But then again, all is fair in love and war. To start with my first argument, I also need to go back to a bit in the video, because Planetside 2 is an MMO FPS, and actually I kind of think and I kind of feel that Planetside 2 is more also like a casual milsim game. If you take a look at Planetside from a high level perspective, so not from like one player perspective, but from like the commander perspective, Planetside is all about strategy more than just shooting. If for example you need to clean up a certain attacking force because otherwise you can't move on, well, in that case I think you just need to clean up the spawn point and therefore you need to kill the Sunderer, otherwise you can never move on. Having said that though, that is only important during the final alert, during the last 1.5 hours of a continent. Some might say, but Faber, what if you start early getting more territory before the alert starts? Well, first of all, you never know when the alert's going to start, so, well, that doesn't make any sense. But also, and this happens more often than not, if you start at an alert being the faction with the most territory, then it could also mean you're being double teamed by the other teams. So what I even experienced myself, when I started with 60% of all the territory, we were being warp gated, and in the end we had like 10% left, so it doesn't mean anything how much you start with. Anyway, while territory might not be the main objective of the game anymore in the non-final alert moments, still, you have those mini sub-goals of getting certain bases or defending certain bases. Getting a base or defending a base means you also get rewarded with some XP, and therefore it is at least clear to me that Daylight Games themselves want you to fight and also capture bases and defend bases. To make matters even worse for those Sunny lovers out there, there's even a directive by the devs to kill a certain amount of Sunderers, so they actively want you to target Sunderers to finish that directive. It is clear to me that the developers don't really care about what you do with Sunderers. Do you kill them? Do you not kill them? That is completely up to you. That is up to the player base. I think this is the correct approach from the developers, but I do think they should provide us with some more tools, but I will talk more about this later. The next point I want to make is about the kind of fights you have, because often if you play on a very busy continent, well, losing one Sunderer doesn't make that much of a difference, because often you can spawn at another Sunderer, or okay, you lose this one fight, but you go to the next fight. I mean, spawning is quite quick in Planetside. That is when you have a busy continent. But what if you are on a continent with just not that many players, maybe an off continent, or maybe you're playing on bricks, and maybe there are even unstable warp gates, so you don't have that many options to play. In these cases, you won't find a new fight within 10 seconds. No, in this case, you need to get another Sunderer that takes you 2 to 3 minutes to set up a new fight, and then you have to hope that they won't destroy your Sunderer again. And that is actually more often than not the case. This is very, very frustrating, mainly because, like I mentioned before, you want to find action as soon as possible, and there is, in this case, so much downtime. I've heard some people say, but okay, just go play 24/7 biolabs. That is possible. You can have sustained biolab fights with infantry forever, basically. And yeah, okay, I do have to admit, that's true. That's completely true. But then again, do you want to play at the same base over and over and over again? If I wanted to do that, I would probably go play some Dust in Counter-Strike or something like that. But in the end, this is Planetside, and we love it because it's so diverse. You can go on Hossin to, of course, one of the many construction sites. But other than that, I think many bases have some unique feel to it, and therefore every fight also feels unique. Therefore, I also think that 24/7 biolabs is not the right answer. It is a good bandage though if you want your infantry fixed, but you can't do that forever. On that note, I also do need to give them credit, because sometimes I do kinda like it when people finally destroy a certain Sunderer, because it also means the fight moves on, you change some scenery. Especially after doing, for example, TI alloys for over half an hour. Sometimes you do see that going up this mountain, well, of course it can be fun, but sometimes seeing some different bases in there as well, that can also be very entertaining. Finally, I want to add to the discussion that I don't think that Planetside 2 is just a big deathmatch game. I still think that having Sunderers, galaxies and transportation in general brings something very unique to the game. A while back we had a different discussion about the respawn timer on squad beacons, because after the DX11 patch that was completely broken, there was no respawn time. So with that mechanic, there was instant action actually, and some people really like that. but it also destroyed the whole idea of having transportation or meaningful Sunderers or anything alike. It is a different discussion, but it has the same base to it. What kind of game is Planetside 2 really? Because if you really focus on objectives, it is more the strategic part of the game. Whereas if you're mainly looking for those good fights, you're focusing on the shooter part of the game. And yes, I have heard the stories about Planetside 2 in the past, and in the past it was way more focused toward the strategic part, more getting bases, more objectives, and lately that is a lot less. Also look for example at the max alert, it is all built around getting as much kills as possible, so that's more a big deathmatch mode. But if you look from a new player perspective, if you look from a fresh perspective, and I think that's still mine, because I play a lot of games and I only recently moved to Planetside, Planetside still offers something really special, especially Planetside 2. Whereas though, and this is really important, you need to keep this in your mind, Planetside is going to be more in the future. With Planetside Arena, there will be a game mode that will probably allow also spawning, direct spawning. It will allow a deathmatch mode, it will allow team deathmatch, it will allow capture the flag. Planetside Arena will be the place if you want to go for that shooter fix. Whereas I think in the future, we can go back with Planetside 2 to the core gameplay of focusing on objectives, and the people that really are looking into the shooter part of the game, those can move over to Planetside Arena. I think this is also the way to make the games feel really distinctive, because right now some people are really saying like, why should I play Planetside Arena or play Planetside 2 if the other game exists? But that would be, I think, the way to make a real distinction. Before all you guys move over to Planetside Arena in the future, when it's, or if it comes out, whatever, I also have a few ideas to make the gameplay in Planetside 2 better, because that's the game we have right now, that's the game we love right now, and we also want to improve that. To learn new things for the future, sometimes we have to take a few steps back into time and look what we have had in the past. And in the past, if you guys might have played Planetside 1, you might still remember the Advanced Mobile Spawn Point, or the AMS. The AMS is basically a cloaked Sunderer, but with one big difference, and that is the AMS doesn't have any guns on top. I think it would be wonderful if you could get an AMS in Planetside 2 with a very big health pool, so it can't get easily destroyed, but also with zero defensive abilities. If you would add this vehicle, you could keep the Sunderer exactly the same. It would be still very effective as, for example, a repair vehicle or an ammo vehicle, or even still as a land transportation vehicle with some defensive abilities. Another option to improve the game would be to change what we have right now, and in this case what I would do, I would get more health on the Sunderers, but also then to balance the offensive capabilities and defensive capabilities of the Sunderer, I would at least remove one of the guns. Currently, Sunderers already have this reputation as battle bosses, and therefore I do think they are somewhat strong as well. So right now they are in a good place. They're in a good place in the battlefield, but I don't think they are in a good place to be a spawn point. Creating those reliable spawn points is, I think, a crucial step into getting this game into a good place for the long run. In my opinion, implementing one of those two options would still maintain having objective play in Planetside 2, but also would maintain the fights a bit better, because in this case, I don't think it will be able anymore for just one player to remove a whole spawn point. So in this case, for example, that light assault that I mentioned before with the C4 and the rocket rifle, that one should not be able on his own to destroy a Sunderer. But if a whole team keeps pushing in, coming in with some tanks, of course you should be able to still defend and destroy the Sunderer or the AMS, the Advanced Mobile Spawn Point. Also, and I think this is very important, right now you do get a warning when your Sunderer is getting attacked, but it is often way too late. When you see the warning, you don't have any chance of defending. But right now, a higher health pool would also mean more time to come back and actually defend and fight for the Sunderer. And that again would create some more incentive for some more fights. And I do think more fights is better. Anyway guys, I enjoy what I'm playing right now. Planetside 2 is still in a decent state, but I think it could be better. So that's why I'm doing this video. But of course I'm very interested in what you guys have to say about this topic as well. So if you have any clue how to improve this game or fix one of the issues, let me know in the comments down below. And of course, if you like this kind of content, do press that big red subscribe button down below. But that's me, that's Faber1, and I'll see you soon with some more content.